Hey everybody, welcome back again to another episode. Today I'm actually going to discuss another topic that is actually close to me in nature. Well, that matters to me, and that's the idea of rock music. Now, let's start off with the popularity of it. While it's not as old as country music, and this is based on facts I've actually looked up in other places and stuff I saw on shows like Jeopardy, where they actually fact check these things. Well, it's not as old as country or as young, especially for what's considered today to be rap, hip hop, R&B, or even dance music. It's just as good, if not better, in my opinion, on this part about being able to express one's mood. Examples of this: when you're feeling sad or you're depressed, Sarah McLachlan's Angel, which, as many have seen, it's been used when talking about pet adoption and animal rights on television. And Charlie Puth's See You Again, which was played in the Fast and Furious movies. In the Fast and Furious movie, that was Paul Walker's last film. Um, when you're angry, Alice Cooper's No More Mr. Nice Guy, or talks about a guy who finally had enough of being picked on and he starts acting out, and now he becomes despised by the town. Which actually also shows how the world can change based on your viewpoint from that angle, where he went from being bullied to being the bully. It even mentions in the song how the people don't want to talk to him because they're afraid of him. Friends don't want to hang around him, and parents have lost their friends because they read the paper where his apparent activities have been published. Okay, it can bring out the romantic side in somebody or help to set the mood between couples, such as in Chris Isaac's Wicked Game, or it could talk about the sexual tension that one feels towards the other, such as in Chris Isaac's Baby Did a Bad Thing. And it can bring up happiness. Katrina and the Waves, Walking on Sunshine, and wow, sorry, I actually hadn't thought of that before. Um, but Walking on Sunshine was my main example to this. And speaking of happiness, the feelings of love. Although many didn't consider her to be, I actually found her listed in many sections as being under the rock section. She was listed as soft rock, and that's Amy Grant with her song Baby Baby, and also with Every Heartbeat. And another thing that makes rock easier to express oneself is that there's more freedom in it than there are in the other genres. Like with rap, even when there's no music and they just spit out what they want to say, there's often a pattern to it that's easy to find. Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg. If you watch professional wrestling during the early 2000s, when John Cena first came on, and after he stopped being his prototype character and became the rapper John Cena version, the Doctor of Thugonomics, as he called himself, you can see this transition, and he actually showed a natural skill he has at this. You can even look Mark Wahlberg from his days of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch with the song Good Vibrations. Country, it was basically Charley Pride and Hank Williams Sr. for a long time that would make a big run. And stuff like Hank Williams Sr., I'm sorry. The man had good songs, but to some degree, I have to think that people were drinking because they had to listen to him because he droned. I mean, because to me, his songs were driven out. I mean, they were extended for so long because of the way he played it. But it started taking on more of a crossover styling in the 70s, even though Johnny Cash, Waylon Jennings, Hank Williams Jr. had already started by this time and had shown some of their stylings, which were starting to push the boundary. A good example of this, I think, is Dolly Parton's version of Jolene, the actual original Jolene, to be honest, that many people seem to forget. Same as I Will Always Love You was Dolly's, and many of you just remember the Whitney Houston version. And to me, both by Dolly are actually great and do more of a crossover boundary into the rock section because they don't do the same type of droning where they seem to want to make you reach for the bottle and make you feel this regret. While they make you feel pain and they make you feel worry, it's not something that's going to make you want to reach. Like I said, it doesn't make you want to reach for the bottle and drink or drown in the pain that you're feeling. And also, Kenny Rogers. This one actually surprised me because I did not know this, but it actually counts as a crossover into the rock section as well with his song The Gambler, where it talks about a character from a movie that Kenny Rogers actually played, where he wrote this song, and it's him actually meeting up with the character one night. Another example of when it would change from country that, like, your great-grandparents and maybe even your grandparents would remember, to something like your parents or you might remember, would be Reba's Fancy, and Miranda Lambert would be a more recent example, but with her earliest known hit that I could find, Kerosene. And the way it dealt with the issues that it spoke of. Okay, when I looked up the idea of what made up traditional rock and roll music, I found out that it's considered to be made up of rhythm and blues, country and folk, soul, jazz, all combined in some form to make the music. But it's more focused. But it also tells them to focus more on the emotional state of a person, rather than just trying to get words out to make the song fit to the sound that it's playing to. And I think a good example of that would be Chuck Berry with Johnny B. Good, where it talked about this guy. I mean, where if you've seen Back to the Future, when Marty performs it, it seems a little crazy. But if you actually listen to Chuck's actual version, not the version that was used in the movie, it sounds better. More like a story being told. Also, Creedence Clearwater's Fortunate Son. You'll see this used a lot to promote like the military and talking about support for America. What's interesting is a lot of people forget that when this song originally came out, it was protesting Vietnam and the actions the government was taking at that time, especially with the draft. And it was their way of expressing themselves, I'm not sure if it's their self or themselves in this thing. Tells you how much my English degree actually works for me at the moment. The earliest, it comes under a debate as to when the origin of rock and roll actually started and where. But the common agreement is that it was the 50s and early 60s, and it was the United States and the United Kingdom. I can see this going either way because some considered Elvis to actually be more of a country star because of his religious belief, because of his religion being a part of him so much, and the fact that a lot of his songs sounded more like country songs. And a lot of people consider Beatlemania, when the Beatles became famous during the 60s, to be the start of rock, which I disagree with on a personal level because I don't like the Beatles, but overall I disagree because I think Elvis and the singers in the 50s deserve their credit for this, for their role in the rock and roll, more than just giving it to a band that, for the most part, in my view, were better songwriters than they were singers, and at least 2 or 3 of their songs that they're really popular for, I have come to find out that they didn't actually write, they just covered the song after it had already been performed by American and British bands already. But anyways, back to my point. I think the origin was somewhere in the 50s, but it still could have been in the UK when it happened, and the US just happened to pick up on it by luck. Also, another thing that makes rock music different from the other genres of music is that it actually has so many subgenres that even the subgenres themselves can have a subgenre to it. There's traditional rock and roll, like I said, like with Elvis, Chuck Berry, Buddy Holly, who actually had a song dedicated to him after his death in 1959. Let me make sure I actually have that right. Yeah, on February 3rd, 1959, him, the Big Bopper, and I forget who the third one is. I'm sorry, because usually I'll remember this no problem. But it was the day they died in a plane crash, and it's what became known as the day the music died. This event was later written about by singer Don McLean, who sung the song American Pie, which there's a horrible remake of by Madonna that I recommend everybody skips and just stick with the original. Even Weird Al's parody of it, where he talks about Star Wars, is better than Madonna's version of the song. But Don McLean's American Pie was actually about Don's memory of the event, what he remembers from that day. And an interesting fact that I didn't know until about a week or two ago, is that on the back of the album, when it came out, is that that Don McLean actually dedicated the song to Buddy Holly. And it actually has the words dedicated to Buddy Holly on it to prove it. Another example of what I consider to be classic rock and roll, the traditional styling, Alex Chilton and the Box Tops. For a long time, and this actually bothers me because I didn't know it for a long time, is that Alex Chilton and the Box Tops were actually a band. I mean, the Box Tops were a band he formed, originally known as the DeVilles, but they had to change their name because of legal issues that had come up because there was a band in New York who had the same name that had come out earlier. This band, I found out about them because of the show Hellcats, starring Ali Michalka. I think that's how you say her last name. But, anyways, they discussed this, and it surprised me, and I was like, okay, let's see how good this group actually was. Well, I managed to find some songs by them, listen to them. I was actually impressed because for the fact that this band was a rock band in the 60s that came out of Memphis, Tennessee, was a real surprise. And Also, another interesting fact: this band is actually still around today, but until his death in 2010, heart attack on March 17th, 2010 to be exact, Alex Chilton was the only member of the band to be in every version of the band that came around from its formation until his death in 2010, in which he was replaced. Then it went to his backup. Then it went to his buddy in the band, Gary Talley, who had been there just about as long, though he took a brief break in one of the formations from the band. And another example of the type of the subgenre of rock music is acid rock. This is commonly referred to as 60s rock that helped psychedelic culture come to life. Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath, when they started. And what's really interesting is that as good as his music was, a lot of people thought Ozzy was this satanic type figure towards children, and being like the Pied Piper, and like Socrates, the ancient philosopher in Greece, he was actually accused by many parents of corrupting the youth by having them listen to his music, and they actually protested him. And this reference about Socrates and him is actually in the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, starring Keanu Reeves, where they actually discuss Socrates and his way of thinking. And I actually do recommend watching that for a good comedy, and to see Keanu Reeves before he did The Matrix, and people started casting him for it. Jefferson Airplane, and their song. If you've seen the movie The Cable Guy starring Jim Carrey, he performs a song of theirs about a performance they did at Altamont that went wrong, where cops had to actually get involved, and there was biker gangs and stuff. The Hells Angels were actually involved with. And he sings the song Somebody to Love. Another interesting fact is that this band is one of the bands that, though they lasted a while, they went through so many name changes that people often got lost on who they were until they actually looked at it and listened to the music. They started out as Jefferson Airplane. They became Jefferson Airplane Starship, Jefferson Starship, and then eventually just dropping the idea altogether and becoming Starship. If you see the movie Mannequin and Mannequin 2, another song they did was actually put in at the ending of both movies. And is a song they're well known for from the 80s. And that song's really well played today, even. Called Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. Third version, and this one I liked because of what it brought about, was actually punk rock. This one is said to have started in 74 to 76, only because they can't confirm which artist they want to claim as actually having started it and where. Though I tend to believe England actually does deserve the credit for this one, with the band The Clash. They're actually considered to be one of the major leaders of the movement, if not the most. And their version of the song "I Fought the Law" is very popular, if not the most popular version of the song. and is actually considered by, and a lot of people actually make the mistake of thinking they did it first, when the band, the Bobby Fuller Four, actually did it first. Just they weren't as widely popular as the Clash were. The Clash were also known because the style of punk rock was actually about forming a way to be anti-establishment while at the same time showing who you were and showing what you believed and that you were willing to fight for it. Another band that came out of this nice little section is the Ramones. Many will remember Joey Ramone for the song, for his cover of What a Wonderful World, which is actually my favorite version of the song, though the earlier blues or jazz, I'm not really sure which way it's listed, version of it was actually really good too. They did songs like Hey-O, I Want to Be Sedated. Well, Hey-O is actually called Blitzkrieg Bop, if I remember correctly. But they did a song for the original version of the Stephen King movie Pet Sematary that came out in the late 80s, early 90s. And it's even on one of their albums called Brain Drain. And it basically describes the idea of what the Pet Sematary was, how it acted, and why this person was actually against the idea of going to that, of going through that process of being buried there. And another song they did was I Want to Be Sedated. Now, the anniversary edition was the version that actually got the video for it, and I want to say it was the 10th anniversary of it. And a fact I didn't know until they did Jeopardy, until it came up on Jeopardy, is that Courtney Love is actually in this video, if you look, and she's the one that's in the cheerleader uniform. And there's even modern day versions of the punk rock that still exist. Bands such as The Offspring and Green Day. And The Offspring, the song by them I would put under punk rock is either Kids Aren't Alright or Want You Bad. With Green Day, off of the album I had, which was called Nimrod, Basket Case, Time of Your Life, and then from their American Idiot album, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. An interesting fact, when I spoke earlier about the subgenre giving birth to a subgenre, so to speak, this is one example of that. Punk rock is considered to have given birth to the idea of alternative rock, which includes bands like Hellstorm, even though I consider them to be more of a heavy metal styling, and new wave, like Katrina and the Waves. And this is by many considered because this punk rock style diverged itself and created these other, branched off into many other stylings during the late 70s through the mid 80s. So I'm trying to keep my notes straight. One style that was really popular between 71 to 75, and it was really well taken in the United Kingdom, but didn't do so well in the U.S., is the style of what's known as glam rock, where they would dress to get attention, essentially, while also doing their music, having a different sound to it, so to speak. Bands that fit into this category were Kiss, who did the song Detroit Rock City, and Queen, who, if you've seen the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, heard the song, and if you're an athlete, We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, which you hear at almost every sporting event. And also, if you've ever seen the movie Highlander, and that would be the song Princes of the Universe, performed at the very beginning of the movie starring Christopher Lambert, and in the very first movie of Highlander that they made in the 80s. That starred Christopher Lambert as Connor McLeod. Or if you saw the TV series, there was the opening in the credits version of it, which they used it starred I forget his name now, but it actually featured a supposed another relative who was named Duncan MacLeod instead. Both of which I actually recommend. Watch the series, watch the movie, but watch the movie first, and then watch the series. But like I said, both are good and well done. And Queen's music is actually featured almost all throughout the movie. Punk rock also not punk rock, but glam rock also influenced London writer Richard O'Brien, who became the creator of the musical Rocky Horror Picture Show, which actually features a song by which, if you've seen the original movie from the 70s, early 80s, it actually features Meatloaf as the character of Eddie performing a song in it. And Meatloaf himself was known as being a rock singer. A song called Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul, or as many have come to know it now, since they didn't know the title then, apparently, Whatever Happened to Saturday Night. But what's really interesting is that in that particular song, it makes mention of Buddy Holly, talking about how he was singing his last song. Other bands that fit in this category are Twisted Sister, Quiet Riot, and this particular genre was said to give birth to what became known as New Romantics genre. Adelman, Flock of Seagulls, The Culture Club, which featured which had Boy George as a big part of its thing. Another genre would be the Gothic rock. Bands like The Cure, Evanescence, Him, whose name is actually short for His Infernal Majesty, and Within Temptation, and even Nightwish. And with this, what makes glam rock so special is that it has recently made its way back into popularity since the 90s, and even into today, with another band I actually rather enjoy, known as Negative, from the Scandinavian region, and Japanese artist Nana Kitade, I actually consider to be in this styling, but some list her more as Gothic rock or just plain rock. And I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name. And with Christian rock, is actually said to have, Christian rock is a branch that's on its own as my final example of the genre and subgenre ideas. And a lot of people probably seeing this and laughing, saying Christian rock, ha ha ha, very funny. But actually, there's a lot of but the idea of Christian rock itself has actually very little to do with actually being about Jesus or about God. It's about your spiritual belief and find a way to connect it in the music and get your ideals out in the religious way while still being respectful. A good example of this is the band from Pennsylvania, The Letter Black, with their song Fire with Fire, or their other song Painkiller. Initially, I listened to this band, I thought it was just a rock sound. I looked up the information to find out about them and was surprised to find out that they're actually listed as Christian rock. Because I particularly am not a fan of Christian rock bands. And then I came across this and found out they were. And then found out a few other bands that I've also enjoyed over the years were actually falling into this same category, technically. I mean, due to how they were, or it was at least how they started. Even Elvis is considered Christian to listen. I mean, Christian because of his actual early days when he would do religious songs. Despite the fact that, and I still find it interesting that in 1950s, the reason why when Elvis went on Ed Sullivan that he had to sing to a dog when he performed the song Hound Dog is because parents were up in arms over his hip movement, over the fact that he would shake his hips on TV, saying that it was suggestive sexually towards teenagers and girls in general, promoting sex. Well, in the 90s, another controversy came up that was about a similar idea, and that's Billy Ray Cyrus, oddly enough. Country music, if you've seen the video to Achy Breaky Heart, you'll see him start moving his leg. He'll start doing like this weird dance thing where he sort of shakes his hips, but at the same time, he like basically does like a high knee step, essentially, combination, and it raised a lot of the same issues, saying it was sexually suggestive, and actually compared him to Elvis in that aspect. Anyways, okay. But to me, what makes a good rock song is the way the artist writes it, how the music's played, and if it can actually make a connection to the person listening to it. It's great that a writer, and like I said, it's a great thing if the artist who's writing the song or performing it can get the emotion that's supposed to be felt, that can actually be felt when they're performing it, and give the person the feeling they're supposed to have towards it. Like if the song's supposed to be sad, you actually want to cry, or you have that feeling in your chest where it's very tight. Where it's about hope or religious beliefs, it causes, or about love, it gives you that feeling of being free and flying, so to speak. Anyways, instead of my top 10, I'm going to do a top 20 this time, because I actually had a hard time shortening it. And I wanted to put Rob Zombie on this list, but as much as I enjoy Rob Zombie, at times he does tend to get on my nerves a little bit. But he is a good artist, and I would have put him on this list if I actually thought to put more on. If I thought I could make the list longer, he just didn't fit in to the top of my list that I'd listen to like that. Not saying I wouldn't listen to him, because I would. Anyways, number 20 on this list, Roxette, a Swedish duo that became known for song The Look, where the opening line is, where the opening line talks about, look, sorry, it's been so long since I've actually, it's been a while since I've actually listened to the song, but I think I listened to it last night. That's about hitting like a hammer. And it's actually describing her look, and it even asks, what would make a brown-eyed girl turn blue? So the song is more of a love song, but it's got the rock beat that would surprise most people, and describes how strong the woman is. My favorite song by them is Fading Like a Flower. I didn't know about this song for a while because I didn't know they released I didn't know they released an album after they released the one that had The Look on it. And after they released Look Sharp, I didn't know they had another album called Joyride that featured the song Fading Like a Flower on it. Didn't do as well in the States, I guess, so people didn't talk about it as much. And with this song, it talks again about a loving feeling and how how whenever this person comes around, they lose all sense of themselves in a way. But at the same time, when the person's gone, it's like they can't breathe because they actually miss them so much. The band Roxette's also known for the love song from Richard Gere and Julia Roberts' 90s movie, Pretty Woman, the song being It Must Have Been Love. And if you watch the actual video that they made for it, there's two different versions. The first actually shows scenes from the movie in it, while the second focuses more on the two band members playing and singing rather than showing, and doesn't show any of the anything from the movie. Number 19, like I said, the Pennsylvania religious band, Christian rock band, The Letter Black. And my favorite song by them is actually Fire with Fire, because even though it doesn't sound like it, the song is a religious song, and if you actually listen to the lyrics, you can find it and understand it. And to me, as much as going to church killed me, so metaphorically speaking, and drove me insane, I could listen to the Letter Black's Fire with Fire for about as long as it would take for a church service to last, and I would be okay. And another interesting fact is that the Letter Black was not the band's original choice for their name. The original choice they had was Breaking the Silence, and they ended up changing the name. Number 18, Alex Chilton, the Box Tops. They're another American band, another American rock band, and they're actually, and like I said, one of the things that makes me so happy about them is that they were actually a Tennessee rock band. They're actually from the state of Tennessee, formed in Memphis, and were great, even though they didn't really get known as well as other bands did, or probably do as well as expected for a lot of people. And their song, The Letter, is my favorite song by them. I actually got the song, and there are times it'll be the first song I want to hear, or it'll be the song I want to hear right before I go to sleep, just because of how nice and how good it is, and how romantic it sounds, and the way it's done. Number 17, Meatloaf. Also an American rocker. Sorry, I forgot to get where he was actually from. But the song by him got a little questionable because it came down to two. One of them being Paradise by the Dashboard Light, because I like during about the early end of it, early end to almost the exact end of it, where they have the conversation between him and the girl, how it goes, because it actually reflects an actual relationship idea, where the man, he wants sex, and then he wants to think about whether he wants to stay with the girl, or in the girl's case, she wants to know that before she sleeps together, he actually does love her and wants to stay with her. But the other song is from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul, because it was actually really well done. And you can even find on YouTube, because I know I found it there at least once, where it actually shows an interesting pop-up video from when they had that actually around on MTV and VH1, where it gives you information on, or it gives you like interesting facts about the song, or about the video, or about where they got, or something to do with the artist, anything like that. Anyways, with this particular one, because it revealed a fact I actually had considered when I saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show, But a lot of people told me I was wrong, and then I found out I was actually right about it. But the song from that is the Hot Patootie, Bless My Soul, which, like I said, according to a lot of people, later became known as Whatever Happened Saturday Night. This song was even performed by John Stamos when he guest starred on the TV show Glee. I didn't watch Glee, but I did watch this particular scene on YouTube where he performed it. And it wasn't as good, but it was good. And if you saw, let's do the Time Warp again, where they basically changed the idea to where it was people watching the movie, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. You could see Adam Lambert performing this song. Why he dances like Mick Jagger in that video, actually, during that scene, actually had me wondering, was actually the biggest thing about that I was wondering. Because his performance wasn't bad, and the fact that they changed the scene a little did bother me. But again, the Mick Jagger dancing really threw me with that, because it was just odd to see. And him doing it looked really odd. Mainly because he actually has meat on his bones, whereas Mick looked like you could have skinned him with one little slice. And you would have had beef jerky, basically. Number 16 on this list, from Sweden, a band that's listed as heavy metal, which is another subgenre of rock music, which I find interesting that heavy metal is actually listed before metal itself. It goes heavy metal and then metal, which surprised me. But again, back to my point. Swedish band known as Amaranth, or Amaranth. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. This was another band who actually had a different name in mind, but the original name they had chosen, they couldn't use due to some other issue that had come about. And so, upon trying to figure out their name, this is what they came up with. And the song by them that I actually enjoy the most is Amaranthine, where again it talks about being a love interest, where it's another love song. But the way this one's done, it fits more to your rock music. It fits more into your, I could suggest, heavy metal and your hard rock styling, which makes it interesting because it doesn't sound like a traditional ballad sound to it in the way that it's done. Number 15, from Finland, symphonic metal band Nightwish. One thing I find interesting is that this band has had three different female lead singers. The first being Tarja, who went on to have a good, successful singles career on her own, in my view. The second, Annette, who I thought actually was a close replacement for Tarja. But a lot of people, when she first came out as the band's new lead singer, said that Annette was chosen only for her looks. And if you watch the video Bye Bye Beautiful, the way they do that video is in order to mock the fans for saying that. Because in the video it shows the band as being men with her, and then it shows the band being all women playing. And like I said, it was their way of telling the fans that it wasn't just about Annette's looks, that she actually had a good voice. And they were right, she really does when she sings. The third member after Annette was gone is Floor Jansen, who came from another band. With her, I'm not really so sure she actually works. I've heard I heard the album that she was supposed to do, and only because I came across it when I went and looked it up. I tried listening to the songs. Well, when I listened to the songs, I found only one song by her I could actually listen to and not wonder why they chose her to be the replacement rather than keep looking for somebody else. It's nothing against her because she probably is a good person. She probably has a great voice somewhere. I mean, she does have a nice voice, but it just didn't seem to fit with the music that she was trying to play with. Tarja, many didn't know this, including myself, when I first heard of the band, actually had experience and studied opera music. She could actually sing opera styling, which is why, if you listen to their first album, which has songs like The Carpenter, Angels Fall First, you can actually hear it in her voice. Even when she does the Phantom of the Opera song, actually entitled Phantom of the Opera, you can hear it. Annette's, hers actually sounded more like the band in that it actually had that rock sound to it. If you listen to her song Amaranth, you can hear it. Bye Bye Beautiful. I said a lot of their songs where she performed, you can hear the rock styling actually match up with her. Tarja could have done anything. Rock, the sad opera sound. She knew how to make it fit. Okay, number 14. A British-American folk band. Kind of confused on how it's both, but apparently it is. And that's Blackmore's Night. This band, a lot of their stuff is old songs that you would have heard like during, that sounds like they could have come from like the Renaissance and ideas like that. And they play it sort of like that at times, while at other times they give it a more modern sound where it's got like a rock sound, or it's just something you can listen to that's very peaceful. They did a version of the song Wish You Were Here, and it's done really well. Street of Dreams, but my favorite song by them is the song I Guess It Doesn't Matter Anymore. The reason why mainly it came to my attention is because when I heard the song originally, I was like, they're talking about a ghost. People, again, were actually questioning on whether I was right or not. They're like, no, it's just about a girl. Turns out it's actually in Illinois. It's actually where I live, the state of Illinois. It's actually a ghost story that's been passed around in Chicago since the early 20s or 30s. Because it's about the story of Resurrection Mary. And what makes this interesting is that there's 3 versions of the Resurrection Mary story. The original Resurrection Mary is about a girl who was 21 and she died in one of the early model cars. She died in a car accident. The second one is a slightly older woman. Again, I'm not sure on the age on this one because I couldn't find anything to give me the age for this person. And she got hit by a car and died, and is supposed to haunt the area. The third is about a 10-year-old girl who actually died. Now, according to Blackmore's Night and majority of people, the song is about the first version of the ghost, who was just a young woman who died tragically in an accident, which this I could actually believe. And one of the things I enjoy about this story is that it's actually told in a ballad type way, but it's got that nice rock sound that makes it where it sounds like it's just a song if you're not actually paying attention. Number 13, from the Netherlands. Symphonic metal band Within Temptation. Now, what I enjoy about this band is that while they take the rock music and throw in like the keyboard and stuff, the keyboard things can have more of the song, but they still keep the feeling. They can keep you in the song even if it doesn't seem like it. Before you know it, the song will be over, and you'll actually probably want to hear it again. many times just to make sure you didn't miss anything. Favorite songs by them is either Ice Queen from their second album, or from their second album, which, if I remember correctly, is entitled Mother Earth. Because there's a song also on the album called Mother Earth. Or their song from the album Hybrid, which which had vocals by former Nightwish member Tarja, the song Paradise, What About Us? Now, here's one that really surprised me, because as much Pennsylvania is known for its Christian rock, apparently, and American rock styling, which falls into the alternative, as I discussed earlier, Hellstorm. And this one actually has a brother and sister duo in it. Lizzie Held, the singer, and her brother, if I remember correctly, is like the drummer or the guitarist in this, according to the things I found. Sorry if I've actually got that wrong. But the song by them I enjoy, I Miss the Misery. Just, I don't know how to describe it, but the way this song, because even though it sounds like it should be something bad, it's actually well done in the way it is. Okay, number 11, Boston. This goes out to Boston, Massachusetts, to Boston, for the band Aerosmith, which had Steven Tyler as a member of it. His daughter, a lot of people remember for the 90s music videos that they had of Crazy, and for the fact that she's also a well-known actress, or pretty well-known anyways, from the late 90s into the present. What made this interesting is that one of my favorite songs my favorite song by them is the song Crying. While the video did not feature her, from the video for Crazy, the actress Alicia Silverstone, who's in the video with Liv Tyler in Crazy, is actually the main star of this video. And if you've seen the show Lip Sync Battle, she actually dresses like she did in the video and does the song, or lip syncs the song, dressed as she was in the 90s. And she actually looks really close to the way she did then, which surprises me because of the years that have passed, and proving how she actually managed to stay with that young, youthful look. But with Aerosmith, a lot of their songs, the early stuff, a lot of rock stuff that's traditional, like Love in an Elevator, stuff that parents would generally get mad over. But Crying and Crazy came from the album Get a Grip in the 90s. And these were more ballads rather than songs that talked about making love or doing something like that. I mean, being more stuff the parents would hate. And if you watch the video to Crazy, you can actually see Liv Tyler in a strip club performing the same dance step, same choreography as when it shows Steven performing at a concert. She's performing this on stage. And she actually does really well at imitating him. Personally, if she can sing, I'd like to see if she could actually take her father's place and actually do this. So that way Aerosmith could still live on into the next generation if she chose to. Okay, number 10 on the list. This one comes under controversy, even in my view, because I found it on multiple sites where this artist was listed as being a rock star, other sites just as your general Japanese pop star. So it confused me as to which way she fell. The artist's name is Snow, or also known as Yukie, Y-U-K-I-E. The song I chose and enjoy very much by her is called Saka Sama no Cho. Again, sorry if I mispronounced that. And when I looked it up, it came up with two different titles, either Inversed Butterfly or Inverted Butterfly. And this is a song that's, again, it's a love song. Very good ballad, in my view, from what I can understand of it. And the way the music video is portrayed for it. And the video, if this had been 2004, when Tattoo, in the early 2000s, when bands like Tattoo came out, where the band's name actually stood for This and That Girl, this video would have been censored in the States, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Just because it did the same thing that that Tattoo did, and talked about the idea of women being okay with that. It was okay for a woman to love another woman in a relationship style. But they became accepted. But as times have changed, nowadays I can see this video going through no problem. And the video, I highly recommend watching because it is well done and the story plays out nicely in the video. Number 9 on the list, the Ramones. For some reason, I wanted to think the Ramones were from Canada. I don't know why, but I did. And then I found out they're actually from New York. Sorry, I thought I actually had it wrote down where in New York they were actually from. But they're considered to be the American punk rock band. And like I said, for them, it gets iffy on the song choice because it's between I Want to Be Sedated, just because of how well the song goes along. Even though it's repetitive, it's well done. And the song Pet Sematary, though I would probably lean more towards Pet Sematary because it does more of a storytelling in it. Number 8, The King, Elvis Presley, from Mississippi. Known early for being a religious Christian type singer, later becoming the rock legend that everybody remembers. My favorite song that he did was Burning Love. If you saw Disney's Lilo and Stitch, you can hear a version of this that was redone you can hear the remake of it, the cover of this, done by Winona Judd, or if you've seen the movie Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, Matthew McConaughey in it, and Breckenmeyer. The movie, during one scene in it, actually has it where it's playing Elvis's version of the song. And again, the song was the right choice in that point, in my view. Not because I was a fan of the song, not because I was a fan of Elvis, but because in that moment, the way the song's being played and what it's discussing in the song actually works for that particular moment being discussed. Number 7, Brooklyn, New York, Pat Benatar. What I liked about her is that with her, let me make sure I'm on something else real quick. Okay. With Pat, it came down between her and Joan Jett as to which one I believed more fitting into this category. Because they would have a rivalry that, well, in my view, the way they were, it played out like a rivalry, like during the 80s. Like I said, you had these two. You also had the Bangles, Bananarama. You had Tiffany and Debbie Gibson. During the 90s, you had Britney, Christina. You had all that. But to be honest, Pat Benatar wins overall because her music didn't have to be a lot of songs on an album. It could be very few songs, and it would sell because when you listen to her voice, it was like she actually believed what she was singing and not just trying to make a song fit to what was there. You can also see her in, I forget who's, you can find it on YouTube. It's her and Avril Lavigne were actually singing the song Love is a Battlefield. And another thing that makes this interesting, but anyways, and she was also on the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s show, CW show, Charmed for one episode. If I remember correctly, it was her. I'm fairly certain on that. But anyways, my favorite song by her is Shadows of the Night. The video gets interesting because it shows it as either, it shows it where she's daydreaming that she's actually a soldier in war during World War II when she's actually working back in the States since all the men were at this time drafted and sent over to war. But in this fantasy she has, when the song's actually playing, it's her working as part of a group, part of the service as a spy, along with a fellow soldier, and they're working against the Nazis. And it's well done story-wise. And I'm sorry, I can't actually describe it correctly to make it sound as good as it actually is. Number 6, from Los Angeles, California, Guns N' Roses. Axl, Slash were great. Me and my brother actually got into this nice little conversation about if Axl, during that time, had gotten into a fight. I forget who we discussed him actually fighting with. Who would actually win? And we went back and forth on it, deciding, and we came to actually an agreement on it. But anyways, one thing that made Guns N' Roses special is that their songs were often about what they knew or about what they did. Or about some societal view that actually made sense. Paradise City was about how, well, from what I could find and from what I understood of it, it felt like it was describing how great the city was to Axl. And Slash, one of the most memorable things about him, besides his hair and the fact that you couldn't see his face, was actually the hat he wore. And there were even stories that went around about Slash's childhood and why he actually had the name Slash. Though, again, these were stories I was told when I was a kid, and I don't think they were actually true. I think it was just something to sell, to try and help the band be sold in some way by fans who wanted them to become more and more popular and be more and more liked. So that's why I'm not going to go into detail on the stories. I heard a song by them is Civil War, where it talks about how war is not a good thing. How, yeah, the rich keep getting richer off of it, and factories can make money off of it, but the people who get sent to the war as soldiers, or the people who are actually working, are getting cheated by the system because they're dying from this. While the rich get richer, the poor die. Or they get even more poor because they're expected to support the troops and support the government and the factories in the name of their country. Now, I believe in supporting the troops, but when it comes to this particular idea that the government and your place you work at should be supported, that's where I draw the line, because just because I can support one thing about it doesn't mean I fully support the idea of it. And this song actually shows why war is a bad thing. Okay, number 5, from another J-pop rock star, and this one actually was listed as J-pop and rock everywhere I looked, is, again, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name, Nana Kitade, or Nana Kitade. Again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. Wonderful singer. Another singer like Snow, who did a song for anime that I enjoyed called Jikoku Shoujo, The Hell Girl. Snow did a song, did the Inverted Butterfly, or Inverse Butterfly. I'm sorry, whichever way the name goes for that. And the second season opening song called Nightmare. Well, with Kitade, and again, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, she did the third season's opening, known as Sukihana, the Moonflower. There was one or two other places I looked at where it actually listed this song as the flower that holds lies, rather than the Moonflower. Thing is, this is another love song, and I've seen the translation to the lyrics. I saw the translation to the lyrics on the anime when they did it. And America didn't pick it up, so I had to actually find it and watch it through the Japanese with English subtitles from other countries to make sure it was right. And again, what made this one interesting is that though it's a love song, it would actually cause people to question it because of how deep the love is. Not like, oh, this person's a stalker or something like that. No, it's actually speaking to this person being in love as a true love and a true romantic type, in my view, is why it would cause them to question it. Because it's so well done. Number 4, from London, England, Queen. Freddie Mercury, great singer. And he is missed, despite what people may think of the current version of Queen with the new lead singer. But anyways, what made Queen special is that though Mercury was gay, many didn't know it, though they suspected and they rumored it for a long time. Until he actually admitted it, nobody knew for certain. But with them also, a lot of their songs, they've had songs off, I think, every album they released that was a hit. And one of their songs that I actually liked was played in the movie Highlander, as well as one of their albums was called Hammer to Fall. And I'm actually not sure what the meaning Freddie Mercury and the band had behind it, but to me, Hammer to Fall, while it talks about a person growing up after the nuclear war happens. To me, it's more of a love song and there's actually a video that somebody else made that I actually really enjoyed. If you've seen the show NCIS, during the first 2 seasons, Sasha Alexander, Michael Weatherly, the characters are Kate and Tony. Watch it and you'll actually see the way it portrays the supposed relationship between them, which I actually think the video was on to something with the idea. Because it asks the question at the beginning of the video, was it love? And I think it actually was. And if you watch, it shows how these two played pranks on each other and how they went back and forth. But it's actually something you would have expected of a couple who actually liked each other but were refusing to admit it, because there was something about each other they couldn't stand. But with the song Hammer to Fall, it talks about how they're in love. It talks about the idea of love, and it talks about how it's useless to waste time, because eventually we're all going to die and return to the ground, and that we should enjoy our life while we got it, in my view. That's what it actually talked about. Number 3, from Detroit, Michigan, Alice Cooper. This man, he creeped out a lot of parents and worried them during the 70s, even into the present. I mean, even into the 90s, I know. Because of the way he would look, way he would actually make himself look. he'd actually, if you've seen The Crow, imagine it without the white face paint, where he just had the lines down his face, the nice little like Joker lips that look to it, done in makeup, and it made people think this man's crazy or he's on drugs, which he may have been, but if he was really good at still being able to pull off the music, and again, making you be able to believe it. Favorite song by him? House of Fire, where it talks about the two in love with each other so much that they're building this metaphorical house of fire with the desire between them. And Alice Cooper counts as American hard rock rather than traditional rock because his styling was different. Number 2 on the list, Finnish from Finland, the glam rock band I mentioned earlier, Negative. What I actually wonder why they chose the name Negative, and I couldn't find anything on why they did. But their songs include like A Devil on My Shoulder, sorry, and In My Heaven, Moment of Our Love. Moment of Our Love I'm not a big fan of, but it actually is a good song for their early start. Anyways, back to the music. My favorite song by them is actually Secret Forgiveness, which to me, it seems like a either post-breakup song or it talks about a relationship that's just starting from two people who were heartbroken and how they can fix each other. I'm not real sure which way to go with that. Number 1 on my list, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Something that surprised me is that I found out he's listed as being born in Gainesville, Florida, and I could swear somewhere I heard that he had something to do with Louisiana, but his place of birth is listed as Gainesville, Florida, though he died at 66 in Santa Monica, California, and he died recently. I mean, he died, well, recently compared to some singers. But anyways, with him, I had a hard time actually picking out a song because I liked a lot of songs by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. As a matter of fact, my earliest memory of watching music videos actually has to do with when I went to visit my aunt one day and they turned on the TV to MTV, and the video that was on there, the video that came on was Mary Jane's Last Dance by Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and the song was nice, and the video confused me because of the way it was done. And if you actually look up the video, you'll see why it confused me as a kid. But I found that song to be romantic in a way, even though I found out later it's actually a drug reference song. Yeah. Tells you how young I was and didn't know about that. But anyways, my favorite song by him actually came off the album Mojo, which came out in the 2000s. It's called Something Good Coming. In this one, it's Tom Petty singing about family, talks about the person he loves, talks about how life changes. The song actually talks about at the beginning of it, in the opening lyrics, talks about watching the waves and how they come in, how they go out, and how this, and eventually talks about how this is the only life he's known, but it's the best life he's known. And like I said, I grew to choose this song as my favorite because it was very good. Now, I want your comment on, now please, in the comments, leave what your favorite rock band was and your favorite song by them, as well as the topic you'd like me to discuss. Have a good night.